Hi, I'm Miss Andrea.
I'm Miss Mare.
And we're doing something different today. We have an idea for a fundraiser that benefits Hazelwood Prep.
There's a challenge that has been done before, so this is not new. We're not originating anything. This is not us inventing something fabulous. And it is called Trading Up.
Right.
And the first one started with a red paperclip.
Yes. The red paperclip challenge was around 2005. And a young man had a red paperclip. Just
like a literal paperclip.
Yeah, nothing special about it. And he got someone to trade that paperclip for, I think, an animal pen.
Yeah.
And within 14 trades, he had a house. Now, we're not trying to get a house.
We're not.
Specifically. We're trying to do a capital campaign for our homeschool program to get its own building. Do we expect something of $100,000 in value from 14 trades? That would be cool.
Maybe.
Do we expect a fully equipped commercial school? No.
Yes, they do.
So we do hope to get to something that at that point we can cash in and then use to start our capital campaign.
Right. Kind of seed money to
Right.
get us into that building that meets our needs in our geographical location.
And so here's what we're trading. And it is called An Introduction to the Study of History. It is the first book in any volume history set that we have coming out.
Right.
And we have a 4-year cycle: ancient, medieval, early modern, modern. And so every year, students who read our history volumes will start with this book because it teaches you
how to, it's literally how to study history. And this particular copy of the book is the particular copy of the book that we are offering for trade. It is a signed copy.
It is a signed copy. And so, anyone who would like a nice history book and has something fun, but slightly more valuable than this to trade with us, we'd love to have a conversation and get this challenge started.
So, Mira, that is an interesting concept, an introduction to the study of history. It's always interesting to me as well that no one ever talks about how you go about learning these things, how you go about preparing for these types of things that you learn in classes. What was the inspiration behind this book specifically?
So when we write our curriculum, it's not just for the students who are in our class, though it is for the students who are in our class. It is also for kind of correspondence study, so people can go through this on their own, so they don't have the benefit of somebody standing up at the front of the classroom and filling in all of these different pieces. Now, as an organization, Cheese Press, we are making videos that kind of talk through each one of those things. So you can watch the videos along with what you're studying and kind of get a little bit of that feedback. But, what we cover here is probably, I wouldn't even say in a high school classroom, because I'm not sure in a high school classroom that they really go into enough depth on exactly why we're here and doing this. These are the requirements for graduation, so you're going to do it and you're going to be happy about it. And instead, this would probably be week 1 of like a college class of, all right, here are the expectations for the year. And so we've kind of laid it out there. But also, in the world that we're in, critical thinking and discernment and source vetting, these are kind of some of the most important qualities that we can be nurturing at this moment in history. And that's really what this goes into. And I feel like there's a lot of opportunity missed in that area when you're talking about kind of core subjects that might be being taught in a traditional fashion.
From where you are right now to where you're trying to get to a larger facility, talk about that journey and why we are where we are right now.
So Hazelwood Prep as an organization is built really on the history classes. They combine history, language arts classes, but that's just sort of a piece of the larger education. And it has always been really from very early on. I won't say day 1 because it was really year 2 that we started introducing theater into the program. But very, very early on in our program, we introduced theater to the process. And from there, because we've always catered to performing arts students, we've really grown more into a performing arts school. And as we have grown into a performing arts program, we need the space to be able to adequately teach that. Because we've been staging plays once or twice a year at our local theater, which is a professional theater, and it's a beautiful performing arts space. But as we flesh out larger and larger performing arts programs, we're going to have more and more and more performances, and we cannot afford to rent out their performance space every week of the year.
And so it sounds like the environment's very much focused on creativity, teaching the kids history with a very creative and art form component of it to get them to where they're going.
We have the full academic program too.
Yes.
So we have history, we have language arts, we have math, we have science, because these kids, when you talk to a teenager who's like, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be a singer, they don't necessarily have the foresight to realize that they also have to have the education behind that. They're like, I'm good, I've got enough education that I can do what I need to do. But if you're looking at the truly transformative performing arts scene, if you look at Kendrick Lamar's halftime show, if you look at a musical like Hamilton, you don't get to places like that without knowing the history, without being able to research things, without having that academic foundation that can propel arts to the next level.
So, Andrea, this is a really creative and interesting approach. How did you guys come up with this type of trade-up program? I know it's not new, or it's something that you've heard about. Where did it come from? How did you get here?
So I read a lot, and I watch a lot of videos, and I was just sitting one day thinking, we need a really good idea to raise a decent amount of money to get us started on this capital campaign fund. And something was like barter and trade in the back of my head. And so I asked the AI, how does a fundraiser based on barter sound? And it was like, yeah, that happened in 2005. And then again in 2020. And so in 2005, this young man had this metal paperclip covered in plastic, those little cheap 0.5 cents paper clips. And he just started trading. And in 14 trades, he ended up with the house, and he painted the shutters red. And there's a restaurant now, right? And then so in 2020, this young lady was kind of bored, and she wanted to do something more altruistic. And she had a bobby pin. And in 14 trades, once again, she had netted a house. And she got this house, and she gave it to a homeless, 19-year-old. That did not go well. It was too far of a move for that 19-year-old, and they let the house get trashed, so she had never signed it over. She took the house back and gave it to someone else, and then she raised money for a second house. I watched all the videos, and I thought, yeah, we're doing this for altruistic reasons. We're not doing this to get rich. It fits the bill, and AI was like, that's a great idea. Of course, AI tells you whatever you want to hear, right? And so I just started shopping it around, and I called Mira, and she was like, or texted Mary an email or something, and she was like, yes. And so here we are. Do I expect to hit pay dirt in 14 trades? It would be nice. Do I expect a $100,000 building? Because each time that value was $100,000. That would also be nice. But at this point, we're just like, this could be so much fun. We could meet the coolest people. We can get the best stories, and we can share our story. And so that's kind of where we want to go with this. That's where we want to start.
Very neat. And so I think the goal, the challenge for everyone is to meet that 14 trade goal, right?
That'd be lovely.
And along the way to collect all the new folks that you guys are going to meet, and collect all the stories that you're going to run into along the way. That does make for an interesting, not just a capital fundraising process, but a life process as well.
Right. And so how do you decide what to even trade? You're like, that book is worth what? $18, right? Do I trade something for $18? No, preferably not. Preferably you have something that's laying around that you like and you know is worth a little something, but you know you're never going to use it. But you're like, I'll take that book. and then you trade that, right? And so you always look at what the current item is up for trade.
Yes.
And you look at things you have that are laying around collecting dust that someone else might find valuable because you're done with it.
I have in my hand here an introduction to the study of history written by Mira Jones and Jordan Hermit. This is a book that actually goes into the details of how you study and prepare for learning all about history. And it steps you through the different stages of history. It tells you about how to take notes, how to actually study, and certain other things that are geared towards making sure that you're successful in not just learning about history, but it actually carries over into all other subject matters. I'm thinking that this is actually useful for business folks as well, who may have been out of the educational realm for a little while. Why I have this is because the folks over at Hazelwood Prep are starting an interesting program to launch their capital fundraising process. They have a trade-up program that's going on. And this book is the first thing that they're offering for trade. It's valued at about $18. But what they're asking you to do is to take a look around and see what you may have in your possession, things that you've probably had forever. It's added great value to your life or not, but would be a reasonable item that you might want to trade for this extraordinarily valuable book. The goal there is to continue trading one item for another, increasing in value over and over again until you get to a point where they've either raised or have achieved through trade a facility to handle the massive growth that they're undergoing right now. And they found that a guy that started with a red paperclip, after 14 separate trades, was able to land a house. Now, do they expect that from this one book and in 14 steps they're going to achieve the size and scale of a facility that might handle their growth? Yes, they do. But they're willing to take it beyond that and get to a point where they do reach that facility where they can have all of the young students who are getting great value out of their homeschooling education can reach a point where they have a facility that can grow and stretch with them. The facility they have right now is really neat. They rent space whenever they can, but they don't have the flexibility to do all they need to do to reach further into the community and to touch even more students who are interested in the arts. And so I'm encouraging you all to take a look at this program, see what you have that you might want to trade, offer it up, and hopefully that will take us one step closer to these folks achieving the goal of a facility that's really prepped and ready for all of these young, talented folks who want to be actors and singers and dancers, playwrights. It benefits the school, it benefits the students, and ultimately benefits the community. And who can ask for more?